The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, I know sometimes you think I don't listen. It's a very strange way to start this conversation. But it does go in, you know. Everything you say and the advice you give, including within this podcast, probably especially within this podcast, it goes in. So I went away and I redesigned my website, my neiljames.com one. It's like a grand reveal, like a first view of the bride stroke groom. Go to neiljames.com and tell me your first thought. And if it's horrible, just tell me it anyway, Kev.
Okay, so I'm just loading it up. Yeah, it's different, isn't it?
It is very different. I've not gone for the big splash image. This has been inspired by a few photographers that I know, and very much inspired by the fact that in SEO terms, my websites just don't rank very well. So I thought about how to bring together text and pictures in a different way to where I'm seeing it pretty much everywhere else, which could, of course, be a disaster.
Yeah, no, it looks good. It does look good. You can come on one of my SEO one-to-ones, Zoom one-to-ones if you want a few little tips. But generally, looking good.
What would your first tip be?
My first tip would be to make sure that there are links in that big section of text.
Oh, yeah, I've got to do those. Yeah. That's in my plan.
You need to do a lighthouse test on it. It'll tell you all these things.
Lighthouse test? Hang on a minute. This isn't something you've said before.
Lighthouse test. It's in Google Chrome. But yeah, no, it's fast. It loads. I love the pictures, all of that kind of stuff. I'm still an advocate for a big splash image because I think, you know, aiming at brides, that's what they want to see.
Yep.
But just because I like that doesn't mean you should. But no, simple to navigate, very quick. All good. Yeah, like it. Like it a lot. Well, put it this way, it's a lot better than the previous one.
And it's still building. I went for a portfolio page that didn't necessarily meet with the Mullins course, in that I've just gone for pictures, but that's the only one I've done it on. I just wanted larger pictures, and but I didn't want them to be too large. I noticed that on my last website, everything was dropping off the pages of a 13-inch or 15-inch laptop, and a lot of people own laptops. And I know we shouldn't necessarily aim for the computer market because, what do you always say to me? A lot of people look at this stuff on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was
that would have just been down to sizing. But yeah, I mean, I like the portfolio page. Nice, great.
It's almost like a teacher marking "it's okay" in the left-hand margin, isn't it?
The FujiCast.
Welcome to the FujiCast. Here we are again. With your questions that you've sent in either by email or, of course, by Facebook as well. And one thing we're not mentioning today, Kev, although I've done it by mentioning it, is we're not talking about the football. We're not very happy about the football, are we, at the moment? And
no comment.
No, and in particular, one of our brethren, one of our Facebook looker after us, happens to be an Aston Villa fan. That made it even harder, Kev, didn't it? Huh?
Yeah, bless him. I mean, you know, it's always nice to come forth, I suppose.
I knew you'd get one in. Right, so welcome to the FujiCast, you and your questions. You've been quite good of late. We've got plenty of email ones coming in. Send them to click@fujicast.co.uk. Or indeed, if you are sending by Facebook, Kev, the way you do that is by how?
Go to the FujiCast Facebook group. And at the top, and I noticed actually recently some people have been posting questions in the old questions thing. Yeah, post it in the one. There's a tagged post at the top, a pinned post. It says, new for 2024. Please post all questions for the show here. Don't post them in the previous one. The only reason I haven't deleted the previous one is because there might be some stuff that we haven't got to yet. Yeah. So, yes, post in the one. It's got the big orange logo at the top. Questions for the show 2024. You cannot miss it.
Why didn't you look through the old post? Just draw out some of the ones. Pop them on a piece of paper, then you can delete that one, can't you? Just a thought. I've been watching a really good bit of cinematography recently. I don't know whether you're an Amazon Prime Primist, like that's some sort of.
Do you have Amazon Prime?
Earth dweller. Do you watch any of the Amazon Prime films?
I haven't. The only thing I've watched for the last, since January is Deadliest Catch.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Started from episode 1, now up to series 1. I'm now up to series 18.
What's that about?
It's about crab fishermen in the Bering Sea. You will have seen it probably in passing, but that's literally all I've watched.
Is it a documentary then?
No, well, kind of. It's more like reality TV, I suppose, but proper. It's real stuff rather than fake reality TV.
Oh.
Camera crew go out on these shipping vessels and film them catching the crabs and all of the shenanigans that go on around it. And it's pretty brutal. I've seen fingers lost, I've seen boats sink. There was even one. They did the rescue with the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard bloke didn't come back. So yeah, it's pretty brutal. And they say it's the toughest job in the world. And I actually tend to believe them.
So we're talking about crab fishing as opposed to trawling.
Well, it is kind of they throw the pots over. They leave the pots to soak, and then they come back either maybe 6 hours later or 3 days later and haul them back out again. But they're in the middle of all these storms and everything. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I'll be sad when it's over.
Well, there's a fishing museum which you might think, what? I don't really want to go on a date with Neil to a fishing museum. It's in Grimsby. And it's brilliant, Kev. You would love it because it's all those sort of stories, the reality of a fisherman's life, which is blooming hard. And although the fishing industry has been pretty much decimated, and they tell the story of the fishing industry and some of the trawlers that used to go out in the seas. It sounds much like yours. I mean, horrible seas, away for weeks at a time, and they would have to be really careful about the ice building up on the ship. Because of the ice builds up. Did they show this in your one? Did they move into those sort of areas? I suspect.
Oh, yeah.
So if the ice builds up on the ship, and that's why the fishermen are trying to chip it off all the time. It just capsizes the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just hideous. Anyway, the one I was going to talk about is Fallout, which is a sort of post-apocalyptic thing. And when I started watching it, we watched it together, me and Sam, and she said, or Sam and I, and she said, I can't watch any more of this. She didn't really. Sometimes you need to sort of invest and you need to push past that first episode, don't you? And I've done that, and it's weird, like a Terry Gilliam film, but it's brilliant. You'd love it, Kev.
I'm just reading the thing now. It says, in a future post-apocalyptic
drinks reception, in a post-drinks reception world.
Los Angeles, brought about by nuclear decimation, citizens must live in underground bunkers to protect themselves from radiation. That does not sound very high up on my must-watch.
Yeah, but it's when they come up to this surface that things start to get interesting.
I have heard lots of people say it's beautifully filmed.
It is. It's a work of art. And the way that Terry Gilliam used to sort of, he used to mix old-fashioned-y kind of stuff with new stuff.
Yeah.
A hybrid of it. It's done in that fashion, and I have to say, as a bit of cinematography, as a bit of photography, it's beautiful. It really is. Bit grim in places. You might need to hide behind you might just hold Gemma's hand for parts of it.
Yeah, she might have to hold my hand, more like. I don't really do grim.
Well, that's what I mean. Right.
But yeah, I have heard very good things about it, I have to say.
Apart from that, that's it for the television reviews this week. Got a book this week, haven't we, Kev? We've got a book.
We have, yeah. We got. We spoke to Sandra. I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago on the podcast.
Quite a while.
Sandra Cattaneo Adorno. She now has her 10-year anthology, which we have kindly been sent, which we shall talk about in a little while.
Brilliant, and we must say thank you to our sponsors, Pick Time. We are fond users, and I mean that with a capital F, of Pick Time. It's where we host our galleries for clients to come and look at their wares post wedding or any kind of event that you shoot. I know you've used it for more events than just weddings, but I know a lot of wedding photographers use this certainly now as a choice above other ones that are just not so beautifully put together. This is like. It is if you don't have a website, this can effectively be your website, really, can't it, Kev? Because it's just done so well. I mean, if you want to have a splash page with all your galleries at the front, you can do it. And then that leads into sub-galleries from which you can also sell product, like albums, prints, and so on.
Yeah, and one of the good things about Pick Time is that they're constantly evolving the product. So, for example, in April, one of the things that seemed to be missing weirdly on their slideshows for a long time was volume control. So they've added, they've made it easier, easier to find, much better. And they've also, another interesting thing, which I think is kind of AI driven, I guess, is in the gallery. Now, this isn't something that would probably appeal to me, but I can see it appealing to people who are shooting product or kind of editorial work. They've got what's known as rainbow sorting. So traditionally, you can sort gallery by things like date or file name, upload time, that kind of thing. And now they've got an option called rainbow. What do you think that is?
Surely it can't be products according to their colors.
Yeah. So rainbow sorting option displays photos according to the dominant color of the image.
Okay.
Which I think is really clever. For example, if you are, a product photographer or editorial or something like that, and, often you upload the images and you have to rearrange them and all that kind of stuff. And actually you can just go, no, show all the ones where it's predominantly red together, show all the ones where it's predominantly green together. I think that's quite an interesting, not something I think I would use too much, but I think that's quite an interesting little update. And now also, and I do use the art gallery option, which is free on all of the plans. You can link the art gallery directly to Instagram and Facebook stores now. So you can have your items appear on Instagram under the buy now or shop or whatever they call it. So yeah, then they're just the updates that came in April.
They're always doing
Heaven
updates.
knows what will happen in May.
You use the AI search for people option. No, it's not called that, Kev, but that option where you can search particular people, can't you?
Well, I don't use it myself because I don't use the galleries, but I've enabled it. So yeah, so people can click on a face at the top of the gallery, and then it will just show them those images or give priority to those images where that person's face is in it.
Yeah.
Which also is very clever.
I haven't enabled.
You can switch that off if you don't.
I haven't enabled that. You have a choice, don't you? And that's good about all these AI choices. You have a choice. The only reason I didn't enable that, and you might, I think you've got a very different approach to this than me. And this is not a good or bad thing. This is that I was a little bit panicked about some people from the bridal party saying, "I wonder how many pictures I'm in," and then that becoming listen, I'm only in 6 and they're in 26. Or am I overthinking that?
You're overthinking things there. But anyway, I mean, the thing is, some people will hate it and having that switched on for that, perhaps for that reason, but also perhaps because they want the gallery to be viewed in order, in a chronological order as a story, and so they may well switch it off, and quite rightly for that reason. Good stuff.
I like to put mine in stories. So I have day parts, and I really like that idea. And I love the way you can make pictures larger. So you draw some pictures, so you draw people into to what you might think of as the hero images. Anyway, pick time. If you want to use them like what me and Kev do, then go to pick-time.com. And if you would like a month off in terms of, we're not giving you a month off as in terms of work, but
I'd like a month off.
It does.
Can I get a month off,
that'd be nice.
please?
I'll give you a month off, Kev.
Then can I get a month off, just not from work, but all of other life? Please, that's what I would like.
What, like shopping? Anyway, let me finish this bit, then we can find out what that is. Then when you go to pick-time.com, just put in FujiCast in the final sales cart, and you will get a month free of charge. Brilliant. What's the matter, Kev? What's life stuff you don't like?
All of it.
Oh, Kev, you're okay. You sit there most of the day. I know you're doing your white wife fronts, just strumming a guitar. I just don't say it too loudly because I don't want Gemma to find out.
Yeah. No.
Right, do you want to go first or me?
I'll go first. Why not?
Go on then.
Okay, Gavin Parry says, I own an XT5 and an X100V, and I like to reduce the clarity by -2. However, when you take a photo, the camera reads storing, and you have to wait before you can take another shot. Set the clarity to 0 and take a photo, and it's instant. No storing notice. Yeah. Is this a bug, or is clarity special for some reason?
Well, it's one of those things that's always been the case, hasn't it? If you tweak with those settings, it takes a little bit longer to process because there's a bit going on under the hood, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it does take ages. Sometimes I encourage people to switch on clarity to +1 just to slow them down a bit. Because it's really, really useful for that respect. Only affects your JPEGs, of course. So if you're shooting RAW and you've got your +1 clarity on, it's just going to slow you down have no impact on the images whatsoever. Whereas, of course, the clarity settings do have an impact on JPEGs. You should be able to still shoot reasonably quick with continuous focus. CHCL, and it will do all of this. The slow stuff happens at the end, effectively. So essentially, yes, perfectly normal, not a bug, although very annoying. I give you that, and I've often wondered why they haven't been able to deal with that. But clearly, it's a very mathematical process that's going on inside the camera.
I don't use it at all. I used it a couple of times and thought it did take a long time. I don't know why it needs to take that long, but there must be reasons for it. Nigel Bayton. Hi, Neil. Hi, Kev. I was wondering which Fujifilm camera would be best for studio work using multiple strobes. It doesn't have to be 1 million megapixels either, just something that would comfortably print around 300 to 400 millimeter. Before you charge in and say GFX, Kev, although I don't think you're necessarily going to say that, he said, not a GFX, please. I'm not quite ready to get divorced yet. All the best from sometimes sunny Adelaide, Nige. The XH2 or the XT5 would both fit this parameter, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about strobes and all that kind of nonsense, but yeah, I mean, I would still go for the bigger sensor image just because it's going to give you more latitude when you're editing portraits. Yeah. If you need to do skin retouching and all that kind of stuff. So that that limits you effectively to the XH2, XT5, or X100 VI.
6.
VI. You will get the same image out of all of those cameras.
Yeah.
But obviously with the X100 VI, you're limited to the lens.
The only thing that I never remember the actual setting. I just so automatically do it now. I don't think about it if I'm using strobes. So certainly, if I'm using them for first answers and so on and so forth, you do need to, you do need to reset. What's that button, Kev? What's it called?
The white balance and EVF.
No, not
white balance preview.
Preview. That's it. Yeah. Because otherwise, the world's going to be a little bit dark. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why. And the picture that comes up, of course, is not quite what it used to look like through glass when you were using a DSLR. That's one of the reasons why I still can't get used to using one of these in the studio. I can't, and I don't know whether that's the reason why you've gone with any studio work you do. I have gone personally because I'm using Fujifilm kit to using constant light source for stuff like that. And that's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I use a video light. Yeah.
What do you use, Kev, for those shots? All those beautiful portrait pictures that you make, the aperture something.
Oh,
is it the 200? Is it 200D? Hold on, I've got one over here.
It's the Mark II of it.
Is it the 120D?
Yeah, it might be Mark II.
With the great, Mark II with a great big, because you've got two soft boxes that come with it. Well, they used to anyway. I don't know whether they sell them separately now, but one of them is the big, huge, round one that would fill up your dining room, Kev. And then there's the little one as well.
I'm just trying to find out what it is. Hang on. Right, stay there.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Because you've still got it set up, haven't you?
It is aperture 300D Mark II. I do have the 120D as well, although Scottish John borrowed that off me many months ago, and I have not seen it since.
He hasn't brought it back?
No. I do keep telling him it's fine.
Right.
He'll bring it back if I need it.
Come on, Scottish John, pull your finger out.
Yeah, Scottish John.
What's Scottish John using it for?
He uses it he's a location photographer, so he uses it when he's out on location stuff.
Oh, he's making good use of it then?
Yeah.
I wondered whether he was one of your non-photographic friends and for some reason has got a beautiful light in his house.
No, he's a very good photographer, Scottish John.
Lighting up the kitchen or something.
I'm wondering if I've given him my 33mm lens as well, because I haven't seen that for weeks.
Well, I've not got that, I promise you that. But he could well have your 35 then. Now I know there's a Scottish John floating around, and for years you've been looking for the 35. 35?
I have no idea.
He's got it. I reckon Scottish John has got it.
No, 35 existed before Scottish John did, so 33, don't know. Although saying that, he shoots Canon, so he won't have my 33.
All right.
When was the last time you came in my studio?
Well, it was only a couple of months ago, Kev. But you've used it since then, surely.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you must. You've had weddings.
I was doing a video of all the top 5 lenses I used in 2023.
Right. Oh, yes, I've seen it.
And the 33mm, I took 23 pictures with in the whole of the year.
Well, let me just have a look in my...
And that's when I started looking for it. I couldn't find it.
No, it's not in here, Kev. I promise you, I've not got your 33. It's a lens I'd like to use, but I've not got your one. I promise you. Right, go on, your turn.
My turn. Right, okay. So it's, I suppose, kind of fun one. From Brad Jones says, "Hey team, what do you find tacky or cliche in modern photography?" And in brackets, he says, "Let's take the obvious answer of selfies off the table." Then he gives us a few options that he might, I'm not sure if he's implying that you find these tacky or not.
Right.
Lisbon tram photos, high contrast black and white silhouettes,
Yeah.
dogs on streets, orange and teal split tone.
Oh, that describes everything I do. I mean,
The thing is interesting, isn't it? Because when I read that, I was like, yeah, that all, you do see a lot of that kind of stuff. Lisbon tram photos, the black and white silhouette stuff, I think done well. It's beautiful, but I do feel like a lot of street photographers are going down that route because they're scared of taking real pictures of people these days. But the ones that are done well are done beautiful. Dogs on streets.
I like a dog on a street picture, Kev. I don't have a problem with that.
Orange and teal split tone. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of fading there as a bit of a fad.
Yeah.
Certainly was there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think Peter McKinnon had a orange and teal phase, didn't he? Yeah. And that was very, very popular. He's doing some cracking work at the moment with film.
The one that I always comes to my mind based on this kind of conversation is I need to be careful how I say this because some of the pictures are amazing. Is the ones in often they're in the Ganges River in India, and they're of the fishermen or the prayer men and all that kind of stuff. And the pictures are absolutely phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. But I would hazard a guess that 90% of the ones that get shown are ones that are done on these photographic tours, which are set up, staged. They pay the people their money for it, and they make brilliant pictures, absolutely amazing pictures. But I think I see enough of those. It's often the same man doing the same thing with the same fishing line,
hires himself out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like he probably spends all his day going between different photo tours. And it's fine, don't get me wrong. We've all been on workshops and all that kind of stuff, but just think, maybe if you're sticking that on your Instagram, just say, this was on a photo tour with such and such, just to help the photo tour company out maybe a little bit. But, being somebody that's just organising at the moment the Great Train Journey to India next year, and we will be at the waterside in Mumbai, where a little bit of this goes on. And having done one in Africa earlier this year, I know you don't have to do that. You don't have to find people in groups. But you're right. I know there are some photo groups that go out and they're all standing in a long line together, Kev. Yeah.
But that you don't have to be a part of that. But showing those pictures, that's a part of Indian culture and life, though. At the same time, though, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure. Yes, I mean, if it's done absolutely candidly and organically, absolutely 100%. But if it's like as you say, and I've seen behind the scenes of these things, many photographers queuing up, taking it in turns, ready for this guy to throw his fishing net, and of course it's helping him make some money. But in my mind, I'll probably get hate mail for this, but I think it's poverty tourism. And if you're using those pictures to then just go, hey, look how good a photographer I am, then I think that's a bit fake. But if you're using those photos as part of a long-term story, whatever, or even short-term story, but they're organic and they're not just set up, and then you rush back to your nice 5-star hotel and stick them on Instagram, then that's fine. But that's just me.
It is an awkward when you're doing these kind of tours. And now I have a bit of experience in doing them. I know that there is a fine line between making pictures of what you might call that could fit into the poverty tourism bracket, and documenting your travels and where you go. One experience I had, I don't know whether we discussed this in a previous episode, Kev, but one of the experiences I had in West Africa, in the Gambia, was that locals didn't necessarily want to have their pictures taken for two reasons. One reason, which I'm going to put in, which was, how would you feel, Kev, if suddenly a boatload of people from, I don't know, Russia, I don't know why Russia comes to mind, but I'll use that as an example, probably a bad example, or any country, turned up and they sort of piled out their coach and then started photographing our kids in the playground. How would you feel? That's number one. Number two, I know this from having chatted to some people in the Gambia, that they felt that people were turning up and taking pictures and taking them home to take the mickey out of them, i.e., look at this mess, look at that, oh, people live like this, and they're proud, as they should be, because it's their life, their community, their time. So I think as long as you respect that and you spend time with people, photograph them because they are part of it, not because you are just trying to get an Instagram shot. I think that's a valid reason to make documentary work abroad and go on photographic adventures.
Absolutely, 100% agree. What I don't particularly agree with is this idea of paying somebody to pretend that they're
pretending,
doing their thing or whatever. Right, that's what I don't.
Oh yeah, no, I don't.
I saw some of your pictures from the Gambia, and I certainly wouldn't. That would never have crossed my mind that was the type of picture, because I know you better than that. But you know the types of pictures I'm on about. The praying man on his mat, the fisherman in the Ganges, and a long queue of photographers waiting, in their Nike shoes and their their kind of nice camera bags and all that kind of stuff, queuing up to get this exact same picture. I've even seen some behind the scenes stuff where the photo organizer, it's like a photo booth. They've set up lights and everything to get this beautiful lighting, and the pictures are wonderful. And you look at the pictures and you think, wow. And I would find it hard to believe people would take that just to go home and say, God, look at how poor these people are, because they're not poor, as you pointed out. And I'm not sure there's that many people, photographers wise, who would have that sentiment, but you've spoken to people in the Gambia who seem to think that, but they would know more,
because it goes on.
It's just this whole idea of you fly in on a 747, you get on a nice air conditioned coach, you go somewhere, somebody sets up a picture of the praying man on a mat, you go back to your nice hotel, edit it, put it on Instagram, and away you go. And don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not knocking the photo tour industry whatsoever.
No.
What I'm knocking is the I don't know, the ethics of the people who take the picture and pretend that they're not in that situation. So why not just say, I went on this amazing photo tour, this guy helped us out, and we paid him for his time, and look at this amazing piece of art I created. There you go. That's good. That's golden in my eyes.
I like it when you get stuck in, for fear of it sounding like an advert, which is not. When we go, we'll be on the trains, on the suburban trains, properly being amongst it and talking, which is really important. Communication is really important. No different to when you're photographing wherever you are in the world. Iceland, Norway, Finland, Germany.
I'm not coming
Australia.
I don't like talking when I'm on holiday.
It's communication, Kev. It's just being with people.
I communicate with my eyebrows.
Yeah, anyway, moving on. So, is it your turn or mine? Oh, that was yours.
Yours.
Yeah. This seems to be quite a long one. It's from Thomas Hamill. Kia ora from New Zealand. Enjoying the show, but I'll not waste my time with platitudes for fear of a yada yada yaddering. We haven't done a yada yada for a long time, Kev.
Nope.
Firstly, this is just a general point, maybe to offer some relief for other Fuji users who have this issue. Not a question. We talk a lot about back button focus in the world of photography. I am a back button focuser and recomposer kind of shooter myself, and very rarely, if at all, move the focus point of the viewfinder. Comes from years of shooting DSLR Canon and being the best way, or at least the way I was taught. However, on my Fuji cameras, my X-T5 and my X Pro 3, where I would consider the best location for the back button to be placed to do focus and recompose, is not always where my thumb rests. As such, I programmed the autofocus to map the very inconspicuous button on the front on the EVF-OVF changer on the X Pro 3 and below the focus help light on the X-T5, and I use my middle finger to focus. My plea, it's a plea, is that perhaps we should talk about decoupled focus rather than back button, so that the large-handed of us, those with meteor paws or those with elfish hands, can feel free to map the focus button to where best fits the grip. Just a thought. What do you think, Kev?
No.
Oh, I knew that would probably...
There ain't no way I'm changing my nomenclature for back button focus because one person in the world uses the button at the front to do it.
Well, he might not be the only one, though, Kev.
Well, I'm sure he's not, and I'm being a little bit jokey, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, it is termed back button focus. It's a thing. It's got a Wikipedia page. It's what the term is, and that's what the term will stay. But quite rightly, you can use any button, of course. I do find it. I'm quite interested to look at him from the front while he's using his middle finger to toggle that button, see what the reaction is of the people he's photographing. But I got, and quite rightly, mine isn't actually a button. I changed mine to the rear command dial, so mine technically is back button rear command dial focus. But no, back button focus, it will stay in my mind and my description of things. But yes, he is quite right in that it doesn't have to be at the back of the camera.
No. Come to the book in a moment. It's just got a second part here. Secondly, and most importantly, Kev talks about the need to keep your website up to date. Oh, that seems to be pertinent for today. But what I do use is pick time. Insert ad for pick-time here. Galleries. And he said that. And these go direct to my website, which is Squarespace, on a page called Recent Work. Now, he sent me the link for his recent work one, so I'll send that to you, Kev, and you can pop that on the show notes. I'm fairly busy with work, and these pull through to my site automatically. My question is, will this slake the thirst of Mr. Google for SEO, or do I really need to be better at tending to my website in a more general sense? Does the code that I use to link pick-time galleries to my site on Squarespace look like I'm regularly updating my site, even though I'm really just using the galleries feature from somewhere else? Any guidance would be welcome. Cheers from Tom, who has New York Photography Awards all over his site.
So there's a couple of points on this. So pick-time user, the correct way of embedding content using their frames, essentially, which in the past you could do it right and you could do it wrong, and Google wouldn't like cross-domain. They call it cross-domain transaction scripting, if you like.
Right.
So PickTime do that fine. So the actual technicality of implementation of it shouldn't really have any impact. If it does, it's very, very minor. The thing to remember, though, is that, just having galleries isn't particularly great for SEO. You do need to address it with text and descriptions and all of that kind of stuff. That's an important thing that a lot of people forget about. And the other thing to bear in mind, and perhaps the main reason why I haven't used my PickTime galleries for this is, at some point, maybe I'll stop using PickTime, when I retire for good and I have no need for it. Then what happens, So, no, I did. Somebody did ask this question in the PickTime Facebook group about that. And they did say there is something in place that allows you to kind of download all of the galleries at the end of your contract. When you're ready to finish, you can kind of download everything.
Yeah.
So, there will be a way of kind of, you're not just going to lose the pictures, but there's a load of effort going on involved in that. But then I suppose the same can be true, if I decide not to use Squarespace anymore, I'm in a whole world of pain as well, because, everything's on there. So, it swings and roundabouts. But yeah, technically, no, you should be fine, but you do need to, a blog post is meant to be news. You need to give the Google beast textual news as well still.
There used to be an amount of words that I know we've talked about this before, but just in case you're a new listener, there used to be an amount of words that you proffered up as some sort of optimal target, perhaps, of the amount of words that you should read, that you should write, that Google quite like. Does that still exist?
Well, no. I mean, nobody knows what's in the algorithm exactly, but yeah, there used to be this idea that a second level page, i.e. a blog, should have a minimum of 300 words, and a top level page, i.e. a static page, home page, about page, whatever, should have 1,000 words. But I think Google is clever enough to realize that actually, I used to love watching those blog posts. People would write blog posts where you could tell they'd only got to 250 words. And then the Yoast plugin on WordPress would say, oh, you're 50 words short. And so the last 50 words were complete nonsense or just repeating the first sentence, basically. And so Google's clever enough to look at that and go, hang on, this person isn't writing good content for its audience. It's writing good contents to tick a box on a plugin. And so that's a negative thing. So I don't hold anything, there may well be a magic number, but I don't personally. I just write what I've got to say and don't worry about the word count at all.
Now, I don't use it for this, but ChatGPT. Now, I like to write my original content, sounding like something off Netflix. But ChatGPT and writing stuff for your blog to save you all that time, what's your thought? My thoughts are I don't like to do it. Now, I will take some inspiration sometimes from something from ChatGPT, but I'm cautious of it sounding like, well, or looking like, or reading like that several hundred other people have done it before me.
I agree with you. So I use it for research effectively. I have used it for marketing, for mailing lists, mailing bulletins and everything like that, because it's insanely good. I've uploaded previous newsletters in documents, and I've said, the content of this newsletter is about these things. You can have a look at my previous content, word it in the way that, write it as if it was me. And I also give it a list of words not to include, such as elevate, which it seems to use that all the time. Train it, teach it. I actually pay the 20 quid a month for ChatGPT Pro or whatever it's called.
Oh, do you? Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. You know what? I was doing some presets the other day, and one of the processes, the very manual processes when I create my profiles, at least, is that I have to go into all of the XML files and update the metadata for copyright status.
Yeah.
The Kevin Munnins photography, the address, all of that, just for kind of copyright process. And I did my new presets for the X100 VI, and I just uploaded what turned out to be 41 XML files. And I said, hey, ChatGPT, in all of these text files, replace this string with this string.
And it was accurate?
Saved me probably 2 hours.
Woof.
Yeah, so I actually think ChatGPT is an amazing thing, but quite right, not from a just kind of create content and pop it onto your blog post. Although people, again, why not?
Yeah. Well, I heard Writer the other day. I listened to like you watch your chess YouTubes and stuff. It's the same for me with at the moment with listening to while I'm out on my dog walks. I listen to writers talking. And it's interesting the amount of writers that you do use, and good writers, solid writers, who use ChatGPT for research and sometimes for rewriting parts of their passages in books.
And don't forget, it's not the ChatGPT thing. I think a lot of people get confused with this and compare it to the DALL-E, the image stuff. Now, the image, I never use it to create images. It's plugged into DALL-E, but because that, I think, is very, it churns up some terrible things for a start, and also it is trained on other people's pictures. Now, text-wise is trained, of course. It's
on people's.
It's trained on. It's trained on content, but it is genuinely generating. It's essentially like having a researcher. This is the way I think about ChatGPT. So it's a little bit like having, a guy sat next to you, and you say to him, "Hey, Bob, I want to write a blog post about this. Can you research it for me?" And he goes off and he goes to the internet and he goes to loads of different websites and he comes up with some content that is based off the research of that. Yeah. That's what ChatGPT is doing. It's not copying. Whenever it copies or whenever it takes direct content, it always puts it in quotes and gives you the accreditation. Yeah. So that's the way that I see it with ChatGPT. I think it's incredibly powerful. And people just scratch the surface with it. I've got it to sort out my exercise routine based on my bad knees and times that I can exercise and things I've got available to me.
Did all this?
It's fantastic. I don't do the exercise routines, of course, but it's fantastic. It's brilliant. So yeah, I have no qualms with that.
I've just looked at the words, the popular overused phrases used in ChatGPT, the ones to watch out for. Elevate is in there, you're right. But buckle up, delve, dive, embark, embrace, explore, discover, demystified, demystifying, unleash, unlocked.
Yes. So I have exactly that same list, and I paste that in and say, please do not use these words.
Please do not use these words. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. Right, book. We got a book, Kev.
We have a book. Yes. So as we said, Sandra Cattaneo Adorno, we did speak to her on the podcast, and we've reviewed. I think we've reviewed 2 of her books before, Agua de Oro and Scati di Tempo. I think. We've certainly done Agua de Oro.
We did do that one, yeah.
And they have kindly sent me a release copy of the new book, which is entitled 10 Years. And I'll just read the first part of the blurb. So before I read that, you'll remember that Sandra was essentially a latecomer to art. I think I'm going to call it art rather than photography. Yeah. Brazilian-born photographer, if you like, who's spent a lot of time now creating this stuff. And it says, on April the 20th, 2024, Sandra Cattaneo Adorno unveils 10 years at the 7th edition of Personal Structures, which runs parallel with the 60th Venice Biennale, organized by the European Cultural Centre. The 2024 edition focuses on the experience of foreigners, exiles and refugees, especially those who have moved between the global south and the global north. Throughout her practice, Cattaneo Adorno embarks on journeys around the globe with the camera in hand, capturing glimmering flickers of daily life that evoke scenes from a dream floating between reality and illusion. So, I think that last bit kind of sums it up a little bit, that evokes scenes from a dream floating between reality and illusion. Because if anybody did look at the previous books we reviewed, you'll remember, or you'll recall, that whilst they are photographs, they are very, very kind of ethereal, I guess. And this book is so well put together. You know, they're all fold-out pages, so there's you can pull it right out and explore all of these images.
It's strange that isn't it? The way that it doesn't seem to have it doesn't have the traditional spine.
No, it doesn't. It's almost like those old flip-out books, if you remember. Not 3D. Yeah. So it flows amazingly well, and the images, like I said, I would consider this more on the art scale rather than necessarily just photographically, although it is photographs. But the process of creating these photographs is very clever. The adornment of the tones is beautiful, very gold and black all the way through. And it's a big book, and this is a kind of coffee table book that I think people would certainly have out to, other people would pick up and enjoy. But at the same time, it probably questions would be asked about, what's it all about and all of that kind of stuff. And it's amazing. There is obviously text that goes with it that will explain the entire series. However, I would say that, if you didn't know that it was this idea of, exploring refugee or movement of people between the South and the North, you'd have to dig deep to try and kind of find that connection. Yeah. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you look through it just for the beauty of the images, and they are beautiful, and then this kind of the final, or towards the end of the book, there's this incredible picture, which is essentially a beach scene. And it's the way that it's processed, the way that it's been created it just makes you think of people moving across a plain, But if you analyze it closer, you can see a guy surfing, and you can see the buildings in the background and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, very, very clever book. Certainly one that I think collectors would be interested in. As I am, because I think this is a really pretty unique style of photography and a unique book. Anyway, you can get the book from Radius Books, yes. As with all the other ones, radiusbooks.org, or it will be publicly available after the 20th of April. And like I say, it's certainly a collector's book, and I think for those of you like me that enjoy collecting, kind of photography books with a little bit of a twist, then I think this is one for you. A really, really beautiful thing.
I'm also inspired very much by Sandra, the fact that she started photographing aged 60.
Yeah.
Hadn't picked up a camera, I don't think, before that. And she's gone on to just I mean, she's produced these books. She's exhibiting around the world, and she'll, she's 71 now. It feels to me sometimes like her career is only just starting. It's fantastic, Kev. It's
a great story.
Wonderful
Absolutely.
story. Right, that's it, Kev. Unless we do a very QQ. Shall I see if we got a QQ anywhere?
Let's do a QQ.
A quick look for a QQ. These are all very long questions, which are lovely, by the way, but they're very, very long. I'm sure I had a QQ here. Have you got a QQ? Because I don't really have a QQ. Well, I suppose I could. This could be one. Stuart Palmer. It's a great podcast. Is it? Yes, it really is. He's sort of having a conversation with himself when he starts a letter.
Top 10 in the world.
Yep. Do you have you used cameras from 2 different manufacturers for an assignment? I use Canon, but keep an Olympus EM5 Mark II because it's smaller, more rugged, and less costly to replace. Also because it does a couple of specific things that are just easier than with a Canon. I've also rented Fujifilm cameras, mainly to try them out, and I like them. Do you think using 2 different brands is a good idea, or is it too difficult to work quickly with and get a consistent look in post? Thank you, Stuart. P.S. It really is great. Thanks, Stuart. We believe you. For my own money, I have worked with 2 camera brands, and I don't think I get a very good consistent look in post. I really don't. And sometimes that can be working with 2 cameras from the same camera brand. I know that's different for you, Kev, because you've done that for years, and you've never felt that that's made a difference. For example, I couldn't use a Pro and a T together because I just, for some reason, and that may be from old as well, that the 2, there was an inconsistency. Maybe not now, Kev. I use 2 H2XS's, and I have used the X100V, certainly on a wedding I shot in Norway a couple of years ago, and it was harder to get the consistency across the 2 different systems, I found. So to work with 2 different brands, and I've used Canon and Fujifilm together, I find the consistency's not there.
Yeah, I think, if you can manage to get your editing processing done and fine, and you're okay with moving between systems, then why not? But I personally can't. Yeah, I mean, right at the very embryonic days of Fujifilm, I was crossing over between the X100, the original X100, and my Canon system. I was shooting with both of those probably for a good 6 months, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the. My brain was slowly moving towards mirrorless, and the buttons and configurations on the X100, and then having to dig back into the menus of the Canon were a challenge. So they're the problems I would have. But that's I think, Neil, you probably said the most important thing, which is whether the images appear coordinated at the end of it. And I think if you can get that right, and you're happy to shoot with 2 different cameras because one offers something the other doesn't, then fine.
Yeah, if it works for you, it works for you, as they say. That's it, Kev. For another one, if you'd like to get your questions in, then click at fujicast.co.uk. We've fired through a few emails today, so perhaps having said the email box is quite full, I could do with a few more. Click at fujicast.co.uk, or you can pop them in the Facebook group. If you are not a member yet, please do become one. It's very friendly in there. We've got Peter looking after you. We've got Steve looking after you. So, so pop them in there. How do you do that, Kev? Because there's a post, isn't there?
There's a post. It's the one at the top of the Facebook group, Fujicast Facebook group, and it's called Questions for the Show 2024. Good.
Don't go in the old one, because that upsets Kev. Right, that's it. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. See you later. Bye, Kev.
Bye.
The Fujicast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.